I'm Annie Duke. Selecting a starting hand is one of the simplest and most important decisions you can make at the table. Choose a poor hand in a bad position, and you can quickly find yourself sitting on the rail, watching the action rather than sitting at the table and competing. So the question is, how do you choose which hands to play? In poker, starting hands can generally be placed into one of three categories: premium hands, solid hands, and speculative hands. As these names suggest, hands that fall into these categories have different relative strengths and should all be played differently based on your position at the table and the action that has taken place in front of you. Let's start by looking at premium hands. These are the strongest starting cards you can hold and include aces, kings, queens, and ace-king. In general, you're going to play these hands for a raise from any position on the table. While not as strong as premium hands, solid hands are still very playable for most spots on the table. These are hands that you will want to raise with if you are first to act, but will probably want to call with if there is a raise in front of you. Unless, of course, you have a very specific read on your opponent, you almost never want to re-raise with these hands before the flop. You would have to be very sure your opponent was going to fold. The range of solid hands includes pairs like jacks, tens, nines, eights, and sevens, along with a hand like ace-queen or ace-jack suited. Speculative hands include all of the smaller pairs from pocket sixes through pocket deuces, the remaining suited aces, and suited connectors such as 7 of hearts, 8 of hearts, or 9 of clubs, 10 of clubs. Speculative hands are only raise-worthy in the later positions at the table when action has folded to you and you're in the hijack, cutoff, or button. Be particularly careful with these hands when you're in early position, because even if you do make your hand, it is still very vulnerable. For example, let's say you're in middle position and flop a flush while holding 5 of diamonds, 6 of diamonds. How confident would you feel about your hand if your opponent makes a large bet when a 4th diamond hits the board on either the turn or the river? Chances are not very. In fact, don't feel like you should play your cards just because they're suited, especially when you're in early position. While a hand like ace of spades, 10 of spades may look pretty, the fact is being suited only increases your chances of winning by about 2% to 3%. Finally, remember that your cards aren't the only thing to consider before you enter a pot. Take note of where you are in terms of position and what action, if any, has already occurred in front of you. Also, think about your opponents. Are they aggressive? Are they likely to re-raise your hand or just call? Can you take the pot if you raise now, or are you likely to see a flop? Remember, even the strongest starting hands can be beaten after the flop, so think carefully about which cards you want to play, especially when you're out of position or facing a pre-flop raise.